Yes, we're here. So good morning. We have two people live. It is National Voice Day, and I couldn't miss this opportunity to come on and talk about it. As you know, I'm really passionate about people being heard and understood and getting what they want. But the truth is, as those of you know me, I'm always more motivated to help others than myself often, and so I couldn't miss this opportunity to bring an amazing lady onto the show and get her insights into being heard. So please give a warm welcome, and please comment and say hello before we're going to say hello today to Caroline Spears, who is a birthing doula. So if you don't know what that is, please stay tuned in and find out more. So I'm going to get Caroline on board now. So Caroline, good morning. Good morning. So
good morning, Cheryl.
Birthing doula is probably a new word for some people. They won't know what it means. So tell us quickly what it is. No, don't have to do it quickly. Actually, I don't know why I added that word in. What is a birthing doula?
Trying to be concise. Basically, doula comes from the Greek meaning servant or slave, caregiver. So we're employed by a couple or a woman or a birthing person to support them throughout the pregnancy and to support them emotionally and physically throughout the birth of their baby and in the early days afterwards. So we could be their advocate, we can be teaching different breathing techniques. We're there for all the comfort. Do you want a drink? Do you want something to eat? Do you need massage? Do you need reassurance? What's your birthing plan? We help you with your birthing plans, and we help you understand what your rights are so that you can speak up for yourself.
Yeah, we were just talking off air, and I said we'll talk about my experience, and you said, are you sure you're okay about talking about it? And I can feel the emotion, because actually I think that I assumed you're struggling to hear Caroline. I don't know why. So Susie, just let me know she can't hear you. So just make sure you're near your microphone, Caroline. You might find if you've got headphones you can put in. We did test it, Susie, but we obviously didn't test it. We love feedback though, so thank you for that, because we want Caroline to definitely be heard. So we'll try headphones for a moment. While Caroline's sorting that out, I'll just sort of give a bit of an overview that what was happening for me, Caroline, I was listening to you, is remembering that I made the assumption that my current support net would be enough. So my husband, is that any better, Susie? Give us a thumbs up or a Yeah, you're a lot louder now.
I am good.
Yeah, to me anyway. We'll get a comment in a minute from Susie. I don't know if you can see the comments. So you just need to make sure you put yourself back in the middle of the screen now, Caroline. Otherwise we'll end up with just your chest, which is obviously very lovely. Hi, it's Claire Brotherton. Fabulous. Good morning. So what came up for me as I was listening to you then, Caroline, was remembering that I was thinking that my mum and my husband would be the best support. I'm just realising Facebook's pinging in the background. Let me just ting that off. And the truth is, on the day, I fell out with my mum the day my baby was born. She was really upset because she wasn't the first to see the baby. She thought that she got all into, there was a load of drama about what we were doing. And my husband, who's not very good with blood, he had my arm, I'm not kidding you, he was holding my hand to reassure me, but it was behind the bed and he was hiding behind there while it was all going on. So whilst he was trying to help me, he really was not resourced in that thing. And it was before the time when perhaps they would encourage your mothers and your husbands. I know now our daughter had a baby, our children had a daughter, my grandchildren, her mother and her husband were both in there for the birthing, which I think that's new, isn't it? That isn't something that's happened, but you don't always have the right relationship with these people to be able to really ask for what you want. So I saw a post today and you said you shouldn't be scared to ask for what you want from the experts. The experts should be asking you what you want from them. Absolutely, in the childbirth. So tell me a little bit more about that, because this is, giving birth, it can be very traumatic. It can be, gorgeous. It's a life-changing moment in somebody's life. Yeah. And having the right support in that moment, just before and just after as well, is so important. So tell me more about this, being able to ask for what you want.
I
think the first thing is that most women don't realise that they don't have to take any NHS care. They can take whatever they want from the package that is on offer. And in actual fact, you shouldn't do anything to a woman without her informed, non-coerced consent, because if you do so, it's assault and it's actually a criminal offence. So, and there's a lot of things that's taken for granted. Oh, I'll just take your blood pressure. Well, why are you taking my blood pressure? And if it's high, well, why aren't you waiting another 10 minutes until I've relaxed? And am I allowed? Women often say, well, am I allowed? Well, actually, you are allowed, completely allowed. But for example, if a woman has had a cesarean section and she wants a home birth, of course she can have a home birth. And if the hospital is saying no, you need to know, you can go to the head of midwifery and say, these are my rights, these are my choices, and who is going to support me? Because if not, then you throw things back in their court. So if you're given a load of scary information, then it's good to say, interesting, where does that come from? And so, always throw things back in the court, because there's an awful lot of bias. And I think one of the great things as a doula is that I've had to debrief, and I have to debrief my own births, but sometimes I've been to births that have been really, really challenging. And so you debrief so that you carry the knowledge, but you don't carry
the trauma
or the trauma, which I think is what happens with a lot of birthing partners. And like with our mums, if they've not had good births, or if they think the doctor is always right and should be obeyed, if you want to do something that goes against that, then they're then torn between who do I listen to. Yeah,
I think that's the hardest thing, is it? My mum had home births for all of hers, and I now realise, God bless her soul, she's not here now. I now realise how confident she was in herself and how much she knew what she wanted, and it was more common then. So she'd always had home births, but of course I then had a baby that came 5 weeks early. It was straight into the hospital. I didn't perhaps even have the confidence to think about having a home birth. But for me, the thing is, I've always been really pretty good at listening to my system. And I remember in the middle of my birth, the midwife said, the heart rate of the baby's gone down, I'm not having that happen again. And I knew that I was pushing on my abdomen, and I released the muscles and the baby's heart rate went up, but there was no other question. She just cut me straight away, and I lost that wasn't so bad. The baby was born and she was fine. She got taken off to intensive care, but then when they were suturing that stitch, they hit an artery, and I lost about 3 pints of blood. I don't know how much blood's in me, but I lost loads. I mean, the midwife was covered. It was just pumping up, and then that all became blue lights. My husband's, like I said, hanging behind the bed, holding my arm because he can't stand the sight of blood. And I always think that it was that moment. Give me a moment to hear your instruction, and I will relax. And I relaxed and took the pressure off. And if only they had listened to me in that moment. And that moment, that suturing was terrible. It was an awful mess, because they were there's emergency, like grabbing bits of skin and just trying to stop it from bleeding. Of course, that affected, without being too crude, I hope everyone doesn't watch it, my sex life for the next 3 years. I went to a doctor and said to him, look, I can't have sex, it hurts. And he said, well, if you're planning to have more children, there's no point doing anything with it. I said, I can't have children if I can't have sex. There's a bit of a problem with this. But he didn't do anything about it. I drank a lot in order not to be in pain to have sex, and had said second child. And then after the second child, they allowed me to have it restitched properly.
Yeah, Cheryl, you're the second woman in 2 days to tell me the same story of being nicked and an artery bleeding out. And this lady, it happened to very recently, and again because she wasn't listened to, and because staff were talking. Her husband has a medical background, and staff were talking straight over her head, not at her, and he had to stand back and say, "Excuse me, this is Sue, and this is her baby and her body."
That just touches my heart, though, when you've got that. God, brings tears, just to have somebody that will advocate for you and say, actually. You need to listen to this person. And I know that's what you do, Caroline. I know that's what you do for people. And I think what I realise now, if I'd known what I know now about getting what you want, is I didn't actually really know what I wanted.
Yeah.
So therefore I couldn't advocate it for myself because I'd never given it any thought. So I think that's where you're talking about, is actually thinking and having the conversation prior events. So we're talking today about birthing, but I just want to say to the viewers who are on here, whether it's about how you run your business, how you want your marriage to be, how you want your home to be, if you don't think about it before the event and say, actually, what would I like to have happen, there's a really good chance when you're challenged, you're going to lose confidence because you don't even know what you're fighting for. And I put that in inverted because I don't want it to be a fight, but you don't know what you're standing up for, do you? You don't know the options or what you actually want in the first place.
And I think a couple of things with childbirth is that one is that we can't plan for everything because we still occasionally get hit by surprises. And the other thing is that who am I? I'm Caroline Spears. What medical qualifications do I have? And suddenly there you are in front of a doctor or a midwife who has medical qualifications within the field of childbirth, and that in itself is a huge authority challenge because suddenly you're thinking, do I know enough? Do I trust my instinct?
Absolutely.
And in labour is not the time and place for the woman to be suddenly having to make those decisions.
No,
which is why the preparation before and the birth support and getting people who you know will have your back rather than who you think should be there. It's not always appropriate for the dad to be there, and I've been at a lot of births where it's great because the couple have listened to each other. They've spoken and they've listened, and it's been decided, no, we want our doula with us. It's better that you come in after the baby's born. Yeah. And a lot of dads have gone, thank you.
Yeah, do you know, it just touches my heart because do you know what, you have this fairy. I have seen your question, Claire, and we will come back to that in just a moment, just to let you know I'm not ignoring you. You have a voice, I am hearing you. But there is that thing, isn't it, of, do you know, we're not all great at everything. And my husband, for whatever reason, we're separated now, we're divorced in fact, is never really got to the bottom. I didn't have the skills I had now to understand where his fear of hospital came from. There was something about hospitals that traumatised him. I have no idea what the background of it was. When I had cancer, he didn't want to come in. It was all sorts of stuff that really wasn't, he really did. And had we had somebody like you helping us to unpack that, as somebody who loves that person, I would have, he was obviously doing what he wanted to do to support me, but it wasn't really resourceful for him. So it's a really valid point that, we've all got he may have been able to work on the trauma or the trigger, and he may have been in a better resource place to be there to support me had we had that conversation before. So Claire's question is, what's the situation now regarding medication in births? Do women sometimes feel pressured into taking them? Go on then, Caroline.
Yeah, and there's a psychological. A, you've got gluten strep. Do your research. B, sometimes for some women, as soon as you say, "Do you need pain relief?" and they go, "Was it hurting? And that undermines their confidence. And sometimes if a woman's been in labour for a long time, there may be a pressure to have an epidural. And to be honest with you, it's got its place. If you've got hours and you're knackered, epidural often can give you that window. But you need to say, I need to think about this, or what are my options? What's the benefit? What if you do nothing?
I think it's doing that all beforehand, because I remember with Paige, she came 5 weeks early. Yes. I went into a ward and they said, they gave me the whole, we're going to give you this tablet, but we're not going to tell you whether it's the real one. It's one of those placebo things. And I'm like, but being quite compliant and a conformist, I just did as I was told, took the tablet. Yep. I was then put on a ward. My parents were sent home, and my husband, they were going to send my husband, and I said, please don't. I've just got this feeling. Please don't send him away. You said I'd be okay. I didn't think I would have any emotions, but I did. So he sat out in the waiting room, and we got there about 9 o'clock, I think. Just after midnight, she checked on me, and she put her hand on, and she went off and got a TENS machine, which is fine. I'd already agreed to that. But she had worked out I was in labour, but I didn't know I was, because I wasn't having that pain. So a few hours later, then they gave me pethidine just beforehand. I've now discovered I'm allergic to that. Yeah. Second baby with Liam, my waters broke at 8 and he arrived just after midnight, so I had 4 hours. It was much quicker. But I remember saying to her, I think I can do it without the pethidine. I said, but that placebo thing, could you just pretend you gave it to me so psychologically I feel I've been supported? And I haven't. She said legally I can't. If I say I'm going to give you a pethidine, I have to give you. I can give you the lowest dose ever. And so there was some conversation with her at that time. But what I realise now is I kind of didn't want to have the pethidine. Somewhere in my subconscious, I knew it wasn't. I was allergic to it. I hadn't quite put the two and two together, but I didn't have the confidence in myself, not necessarily the system, to go, actually, no, I don't want it. I can do this. And I just know that if I'd had somebody like you in my corner, I would have had more courage to say, actually, I believe in myself that I can do this.
And we do little things like, because we found out how important, I mean, some women say they want an epidural as soon as they're in labour, and if they've had a really bloody awful first labour, forgive my language, sometimes an obstetrician will go, if this gets you through your next birth, come in at 2 centimetres and we'll do it. It doesn't happen very often. And actually those women usually get to about 8 centimetres before they want the epidural. But you do step by step. You love that woman more. You encourage the oxytocin. You support her through the next contraction or surge, whatever she's calling those wonderful baby hug tightening sensations. And you listen and you watch. You listen, because a woman's voice will change. So when she's being saying no pain relief, no drugs, if she reaches the point whereby she really does want them, and you're going, is this transition? But her voice will change. And you will get ordered in no uncertain terms, and maybe in a way you've never ever heard her talk. I love women's voices during labour. They are so amazing. But you listen to that, and then you're going, do we work through one more surge? And then you do say, look, should we go through one more surge and just see how you're doing, one more contraction? And if at the end of that you still feel the same way, I'm running down the corridor, I'm pulling bells.
It's that pause, isn't it? That's the one thing. I can't believe how much emotion that's coming up for me, because it takes such courage to, when you've got an expert or somebody else giving you, but to have somebody else put another thing going, come on, do you want to do one more, let's have a go, just to give you that bit of space to make that decision. Because Claire's question about medication, it reminds me, a couple of years ago I was having chest pains, and I went in and they basically came up saying there was a irregularity, but I had to, they said, you have to take statin, you have to take this and this between now and and we'll do an angiogram. But if you don't take the medication, we won't do the angiogram. So basically, I was blackmailed, bullied, that if you want to have the NHS angiogram, you have to take medication. And I was like, and I really didn't feel in my gut that I needed it or wanted it. I know it's slightly off, but it's the same kind of thing. It's these authorities, isn't it? These experts that are saying this is what you need to do. And I remember saying to Mark, I'm really not happy about this. I don't take medication very rarely. The odd paracetamol occasionally I've needed in my whole life for whatever reason.
Yes, yeah.
But I took it because I knew it was a short period of time. And I went in and I had the angiogram and there was nothing wrong with my heart. And I remember going like that. I was just like, something inside me knew I didn't need that, but I wanted the benefit of their expertise to reassure me. But I also equally understand that if a surgeon's going to go into my body, he wants my blood he wants to make sure there's nothing. He wanted me to have had the medication that's going to keep him safe doing his job. So, and that's the balance, isn't it? You've got, the professionals could get sued, so they want to make sure they do what they know works for them. The lady doesn't know what works, especially because it's her first baby, she's never done it before. Then there's you, is that advocate in between, going, okay, I've seen enough of these and I understand they have that worry and you've got this worry, so you can actually mediate, I'm assuming, between the two sort of expertise.
And you can also buy time. You can buy time to think about things, and if you're not in labour, or actually even in labour, people don't realise this, you've got the right to say, I'm not happy with the care from you, go away, I'm not accepting your presence, or I don't want you in the room, whether it's in your home or in the hospital. And again, because sometimes staff get so carried away in their protocols and policies, and the policies are not legally enforceable. So women can say, go away, or the birthing person can say, go away, I don't want you here. And that person has to leave, and they have to go and find another member of staff or another midwife to care for you. And we've done that. And I tell you, there are times when you feel the atmosphere in the room just lightens and the oxytocin flows again, because that one negative person who isn't listening to the mother and who is imposing their agenda has gone. And
I'm going to do a reframe on that, because Caroline and I were just talking about is that and when we see someone else as negative, I'm just want to sort of reframe it. They're doing what's best for them and what they believe is best for the woman in mind. So I do truly believe that I don't see them. This is just my take on it. They're not doing it right or wrong. They're just not right for you right now. Because some people will like someone who takes control and gives authority and says, here you go, this is what you can do. So what you might interpret as negative is my reframe is that it's not working for you, and it's okay to say, stop, let's change this. And I think childbirth, I like that. Yeah, the reframe is fantastic. It's just because it's so easy to blame the other people for not being good enough, and of course then you get into conflicts and you get into drama, which is, you don't get what you want. It's just like, so how can we sort of just say, actually this isn't working for me? Could we? Because it could be that woman, that midwife or whoever's there, it reminds you of your mother or your mother-in-law or a teacher or somebody. You know, that poor person might just have the pitch of a voice of somebody that really does tee you off, and right there in that moment, that squeak or that tone or that whatever, it could be nothing to do with even the control. They can trigger you in so many different ways, can't they?
And I also think what I always say to clients is, if they're not getting the support that they want, to go back and speak to the head of midwifery, to get their voice heard, you put it back to them to say, find me the midwife who is happy to support my choices and what I want, who is competent to support me with what I want. And it could be a trainee midwife, but she's got the confidence. And the fantastic thing that you do then is that you've made your voice heard, but also it allows the midwives who don't feel comfortable
to say no,
the care that you want, and they can say no. Then they go away with your blessings, and to me that's the best of both worlds. You're both
absolutely
heard.
Absolutely. And do you know what, that just brings it, because that's it, isn't it? It's not to do with they're bad or right or wrong, but like my husband, bless him, he's got my arm in an arm lock behind the bed, trying to be the best husband possibly, and he really doesn't want to be there. I'd have been more comfortable with my arm back at the front, and he would have been comfortable outside having a cigarette and just being told when his baby's arrived. So you know, it's part of the process, isn't it? Sometimes in order to get the right help, you've also got to make it easier for people to say no, I'm not the right person for you. And you can't get all upset and stroppy because they're not supporting you, because it's okay for that person not to be the right person. And often I think we assume our partner or our mother is the right person in this particular case, but I see it in business as well, Caroline. The amount of times I'm working with people, their partner is the person they download to about their business and their tax returns and getting their marketing, and their partner's going, they have no idea how to support them, because they just want their partner to be happy, and they're like, they'll say anything right then to get them to go to the next stage. Well, I can see a couple of comments. I've got the wrong glasses on to read the small print, just bear in mind. Susie's got, her attitude was treating me like a child with a very stern voice, and I was 24. Susie, but I wish I'd known I could tell my midwife to go away with my second child. She was so bossy and left me on edge, making his birth much more stressful. This is just gorgeous stuff coming. No, it's just, but I when I say gorgeous, by someone like Susie sharing it, by this coming out on video, I just give hope that the next generation of people will have a voice. That, you know, the people that are listening to this, we've got 4 people live at the moment. We know people are watching this on the replay. Is that if we can start saying, you know, we start practicing getting clarity of what we want, the confidence to ask for it, and making sure that if we haven't got the confidence, we get somebody that's in our corner, somebody that's going to keep encouraging us. But equally, when we're asked to give support that we don't feel resourced for, be okay with saying no. If you're tired or it's okay for you not to be the main supporter for somebody, because it's far better people keep going until they get the right support than people doing it at a stretch. Sally's put Claire, before that, I've realised I haven't got my computer glasses on, so I'm having to do this. Let me just change them in a minute. So I've got very focused, so I'm having to do the nodding dog impersonation to actually read. Do some women feel like they don't, do some women feel like if they don't agree with what the professionals want, the professionals will have a negative bias that could lead to the baby being taken away? That's an interesting question. Tell me more, Caroline.
I wonder there if you're thinking about things like where women choose not to engage with the NHS, and where women choose to free, it's called free birthing. They don't want a midwife, they don't want a medical profession and professional. They know that they are the professional in their own birth, and so they will go ahead and birth by themselves. There are fantastic associations like the Association for the Improvement in Maternity Services. I work with women who choose to free birth. So we always find a way to ensure that should they need to tap into the NHS, actually I'll often speak first and I will explain the situation. Also, you don't have to prove that you've had antenatal care. You have seen people, you have been taking care. So there are some awful cases, but it's not a given. And a lot of social workers, once you've spoken to the social worker, if one is called in, realise that you don't have 6 heads and you're not a baby-eating murderer. They realise that you are a really sensible woman who's in control of herself and knows what she's doing. They then know that there is no risk of harm. And unfortunately, from social services, they always have to bring in or look at it that is there harm? Is this child in danger?
At risk,
at risk, thank you, that's the word. So I'm afraid that horrible term safeguarding comes in, but it's not a given. And it's not a given that if you are reported to social services that your child will be taken away. We always say engage, because then they know you've got nothing to hide.
Absolutely. And I think that's, remember, all of these systems and all these processes are there, but that comes down to confidence, doesn't it? I think when you're challenged by a professional body and they're questioning your decision, when you've got absolute clarity about it and absolute confidence, you can answer their questions without any worry or fear. So, and I think when you can answer it really, so I think we've frozen there a moment. I'm sorry if it was just if you can answer with confidence, that gives them confidence, because they're just doing their job, aren't they? Like you say, safeguarding the child, making sure that they're not being negligent and ignoring somebody's needs. But we can often interpret those questions as challenging, not believing in us, not trusting us. But actually, they're doing their job. They're asking questions. Now, yes, those questions might be inferring something. They might be a bit leading. They may not be as clean as we'd like them to be. But if we can get to that point where we've got the strength to just answer the question. I remember an example I can think of is often with small business owners and their partners. The partner will say, how much is that going to cost? Or when will you get your money back on that? And often a lot of emotion comes up if they don't know the answer to the question. But actually, and they then go, they keep challenging me, they don't believe in me, they make up all stories about what that question means. And I think what I'm hearing from you is, if you get clarity of what you want and the confidence why you're doing it, when people ask you questions, you have the answers. If they ask you questions you don't have the answer to, but you have someone like you for support, you can take that you talked about, give yourself that space to go, actually I don't know the answer to that, but I'll come back to you on that. It's a really good point. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I don't know the impact of that. I don't know what I'm going to do if that happens, but I'll go and think about that now. Thank you for the question. Rather than, I can't answer it, they're testing me, I'm going to get it wrong. It's such a big thing. Sally's put, being this is my challenging my reading abilities today. Infantilized is so disrespectful and disempowering. Okay, so that's back to Susie's thing about sort of being treated like a child. So with my detective hat on, I would also say to you that we have to be really clear. What did you actually hear and see? What did they actually say and do? And how much of it was how you felt about it, that you made up about it? Because sometimes they're just being this human being, but because of past experiences of being treated like that before, it can all sort of combine in one day, doesn't it? Sally, we've got here. I can't remember what that's about now. I'm aware that it's okay if your life partner is not the right person to support you through the birth, and a no is a complete sentence. I love that, Sally. Thank you so much for that. We are coming up. We've got 2 minutes left, Caroline, because we need to log off by 9:30 because I have to be on the stage with another speaking gig. Obviously, I'm still here, really, but it's a stage somewhere.
Hasn't it flown by?
It has. So let's just wrap up with, it's National Voice Day. What would be your one tip to any new mum who's going through their birthing process? What's your one takeaway you'd like to leave people with today?
Several steps, really. One is, as you've said, be clear about what you want. Know it's okay to change your mind, because it is. And if you don't have the confidence to speak up for yourself, find somebody who will.
Fabulous.
And always ask for the proof.
Fabulous. So I'm just going to pop your, if I've done it right, I'm going to add it now. We're going to have your website going across. What I've got is the doula organisation. It's the first one I found. Sorry, and I've also put your doula contacts in the comments as well. So if you are, or you know somebody is going through birthing and they need to have a voice, then please think about Caroline Spear and have a chat to her. And as Caroline spoke off air as well, not always, Caroline might not be the right person. She might be that, the voice that triggers stuff, but she knows other people who are doulas. So if it's not her, she will put you in touch with the right person. So please reach out and get the help that you need today.
Yeah, I've just added my website as well.
And I'm going to have a coughing fit, so I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And I'll speak to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.